Welcome to the Father's Heart Freedom Family. This is your host, Tish, on exploring the divine mysteries of God. Enjoy the video.
Hello, and welcome to today's edition of Exploring the Divine Mysteries. Gil Hodges, you are so welcome to our program today.
Very honored to be here. I'm excited to see what Father's going to bring out.
That's all I'm looking forward to. It's going to be awesome, I can tell. You have done a lot of interviews.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I've done a lot of interviews with people, but I've been interviewed maybe a dozen times or so over the last couple of years, but it's different being on this side of it.
Behold, the tables have turned today, and I am
Yeah.
doing the interview.
Yeah.
Father is really doing great things with us.
Amen. And I love that he has taken so many people in a very short amount of time, a very long distance in this movement where Father's just opening things up to be able to explore the mysteries of heaven, and I think it's wonderful.
That is really true. I believe you started quite a while ago because you are one of our great forerunners, aren't you?
Well, I I don't, I wouldn't want to. I guess I wouldn't claim that. I think a lot of people look to Adina and I as kind of the ma and pa, the mother and father. In a sense that we have that place where a lot of people have come to us because we're safe, and we do our best not to be divisive at all. Because so many
Yeah.
people on this journey are receiving things that are great for them, but it's not great for me. And some things that are great for me aren't great for them. And it's just coming to that
Mhm.
place where we have the maturity to understand that that's going to be part of what we're looking at as we move forward, that it's giving
Yeah.
space for people to experience God and the mysteries that He has for them, and not
Mhm.
be judged and condemned because it doesn't fit my paradigm. But rather, I tell everybody, just take whatever that is that you're seeing from somebody else that doesn't make sense and put it in the spiritual warehouse. Leave it
That's
there.
it.
You don't have to deal with it. If that's not what Father has on you and for you for right now, then just put it back there and leave it alone. If it's meant for you, Father will bring it out in His time. But
Yeah.
I try not to reject things just because it doesn't fit my paradigm, because some of those things
Mm.
that I've rejected in the past have turned out to be very powerful and useful for my journey now. So we have to be careful. We tend as human beings to be very judgmental and condemning of things that don't fit our paradigms. So it's learning to let go of that and love unconditionally, so that we can walk together while we're figuring this out, because we're in a transition time.
That's a very important point you raised right there because the mysteries are being unfolded, the
Hmm.
seals are being broken, the flood is it's we are being flooded with mysteries, whether we like it or not.
Right, right. It's this analogy that I've used so many times. It's the idea that we could take every single person on the earth, take their perspective of God, put all of it together, and we still would not have a full picture of God. So, why is it that we're getting rid of some and holding on to others when we don't even understand yet? But rather, when we see those perspectives that just don't fit with us, just understand that that's that person's way of seeing God right now, and to let them be. You know, um, there are times where it's just some people are a little off track and they're getting into things that are just dangerous, that are going to hurt them or hurt others physically right now and even spiritually. But for the most part, if we really think about it, we can let most of it go. Let most of people's understanding of God go. Let it go for them so that they can work it out with God. Because every good thing comes from above, comes from the Father. Do we believe
Wow.
that? Or is it that only the good things that come from us? Because that's oftentimes how we interpret that. It's like, no, it's got to be my paradigm, the way I believe. That's a good thing. Versus understanding, no, really evaluate and see, is this a good thing? Is it going to hurt anybody? Or do these people need to be allowed to explore that avenue
Well,
to see where it's going
yeah.
to take them?
And the good thing is, there's a reason why it's called mysteries.
Hmm.
Mysteries are mysteries. I like what you are saying. We have to be patient and not be
Right.
too judgmental with each other, because we all don't have the whole picture, do we?
No, we don't. And that is such a big thing for us as humanity, to understand the humility to be able to say, I could be wrong. You know, I
Yes.
posted something on Facebook probably a year ago, and people were always talking about, I know that I know that I know, and they would post what it was, and I'm like, well, I know that I know that I know that I could be wrong. That's the
Wow.
truth. And it's like every single one of us really need to be able to understand that we could be wrong. And our track record would even give us evidence of that. Because if we look at our track record, every single one of us can point out places where we're like, oh, I was wrong on that. And I was wrong there. And we can even look at it in our belief systems, that we're in different places
Exactly.
today than we were 10 years ago. And
Yes.
what we believe now, if we were to meet ourselves 10, 20 years ago, we would have thought we were the worst heretic in the city, but now we're in a different place, and we understand that what we believed then was definitely not the fullness of truth, and in some cases just wrong. And so when we are able to look at that with humility and see that, that's where Jesus is able to work with us. He's able to come in and help mold our belief system and understanding, because we all
Yes.
have freedom of choice, and that freedom of
Yes.
choice allows us to be wrong. It allows us to go off on paths that don't fit even God's plan for us sometimes. But he's a good God, and he's the one. He always wins. He brings us back, as long as we're willing. If we're not willing, he's not going to force us back on track. But he's going to, I know his heart is going to hurt as he watches us, stumble down cliffs and other things that is like he wasn't intending for us to go that way. But he always restores us and brings us back when our heart, is aligned with, I want what you want, Father. I want to be aligned with the scroll that you gave to me. And he'll bring us back.
Exactly.
Something that, Father's shown me is that, it's pointed out in Scripture. Paul points out that all the things that Jesus did could not be contained in all the books of the world. Okay. So, therefore, what we have in the Bible is simply the tip of the iceberg of what he
Ah,
has.
yes.
And if we really want to understand all that Yeshua, Father, Ruach, Holy Spirit have for us, if we really want to understand all that, we have to meet them and engage them in the spiritual realm. And it's engaging with them in the level of the Spirit, that the letter of the law, which is very short, it's that Bible that we have, the letter of the law, Paul says it kills. Why does it kill? Because it can only take you so far, and if something can only go so far, then it's stifled and stagnant, and it dies. But
That's
when
it.
you use and understand that the Bible is the foundation or the basis for where we launch into the Spirit to engage with
That's
Yeshua and
it.
Father and Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
and the sky's the limit. And all those books that could have been written about Jesus, we get to engage that with him personally. And that to me
I
is the
like that.
mysteries that we should be stepping into. These are the things that Yeshua wants to share and teach us. But we have to be
Yeah.
able to engage him with a personal, intimate relationship and walk with him and hear his stories and hear what he wants to teach us, because the letter can only take us so far. But it is the foundation.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
The Bible is a letter, and it is like a launching pad, isn't it? You launch onto it and
Yeah.
you fly higher.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that.
But you notice,
I love
that people with a religious spirit tend to take the Bible, the written letter, and they cut it off and they say, this is it and there is no more. And they can be very dogmatic about, that, but they're also dogmatic on how to interpret that letter. So it's just a recipe for kind of a big mess, which is kind of what we have with denominations fighting over knowledge. That letter that we have is the tree of knowledge, and there's nothing wrong with the tree of knowledge in and of itself. It's just we were not to partake of it, because when we began to step into that realm of taking the knowledge and wanting that knowledge my way right
yeah,
now, then it became distorted. It was out of time. It was out of place. It was not in relationship. But when we take that
cool.
same knowledge and we engage it with Yeshua, with Father, in the Spirit, in relationship, now it's got
Yeah,
life on it. Now it's really comes to life. And
I
wow, I mean,
see.
what a difference then, because we become people of the word, Jesus, and we come alive. It's the tree of life versus the tree of
Yes.
knowledge is just that letter of the law, and we use it to bang other people over the head with to say, this is what it means. You got to believe it my way. And it just gets these, fights going. So I encourage everyone just to engage with Yeshua and Father because their love is so overwhelming. It'll change you. The frequencies of heaven will change you, change every fiber of your being so that you begin to emanate that frequency out everywhere you go. And you will change atmospheres wherever you go when you engage with Him in the Spirit.
So good. So good. So good. I mean, how can we even think that somebody who contains the essence of the Creator, somebody who has the fullness of God, could be contained in one little book?
Jesus even said, I have so much more to tell you, but you're not ready. And again,
Exactly.
we tend to want to limit ourselves and to our own understanding of things right here, right now. And when we're able to let go of that and walk in faith, it's that idea that humanity is so addicted to certainty. We want to know and control everything about our lives and our future. And if we can't, many people get very stressed and very worried, very concerned, and it's just not a good place to be. But when we can let go of that idea that we have to have certainty in order to live our lives well, and we come to the place where, no, I'm going to do what Jesus did. Jesus said He didn't do anything unless He saw the Father doing it. And so when I can just get in
Oh,
that
yes.
place of
So
rest
good.
for myself, resting in Him, believing that He has my best in mind, that He loves me, He cares for me, He's not out to get me, He's not out to condemn me. He loves me and wants my best. That I can trust Him,
Oh,
that I don't have to know my future completely. Even though I may have a scroll that points it out, I still submit that scroll back over to Him and trust Him to help me work it out because I can mess it up. If prophetic words, how many times have we gotten a prophetic word and it's like, oh, I know how that works, and we go out and try to make it come to true, and we just mess everything up versus being able to walk in faith and say, wow, prophetic word or scroll, whatever, however you want to look at it, you get that. And you're like, so I can see that's the direction. That's the direction Papa wants me to go in. So I'm just going to walk that direction step by step, faith by faith, waiting for Him to give me instructions for the next step because there may be a time where I'm going that direction because He said to go that way, but I get so far and He says, okay, hard left because I really need you over here. This is where I wanted to get you, but I had to get you down this far before you made that turn. And we just flow. We flow with Him, and it's so beautiful and so wonderful when we just can be at rest, no stress, no worry, just knowing that He's got just like floating down the river of life and just knowing that everything's okay. Even the bumps,
so
even if you get bumped and thrown off your inner tube, whatever the case, it's still okay because He's got you and that He loves you and He cares for you, and you're not going to be lost. You're not going to be condemned. You're not going to be judged. You may be judged. Let me say this: you may be judged because judged in Hebrew is made of the word dan, and it's the letters dalet in the Hebrew and nun. Dalet is the door to life. If you look at the old Hebrew, it was the pictorial door, and nun was the
yeah.
sign for life. It's a door to life. Judgment is a door to life. It's like, holy cow, Father, please
Around.
judge me over and over and over. Because what He wants to do is judge us and get rid of the things that keep us from
Oh,
living the full, abundant life that Jesus has come to give us. So it's like, judge me. Let's get those things out of the way so we can just have this deep, deep, intimate relationship with Him. I love it.
doesn't that just give you so much freedom?
Yeah.
Even coming to understand what judgment means,
Yeah.
that it is to judge and take away that which isn't His, so that which is His could be established.
Amen.
Isn't that so good?
Yeah.
My
It's,
Gil, before you got here, you were a pastor. Tell me
oh,
about that.
those are some areas where I could say I have some regret, but at the same time I know that life is life and it's the journey that makes us who we are. So even though yes, I look back at it and I think of some of the terrible things I did as a pastor, beating people over the head to get them to believe the way I believed. we did an evangelistic series in Russia, and myself and another evangelist got our translator cornered, and we worked on her for like an hour or so, just drilling her and putting all this condemnation and judgment on her, trying to get her to accept Jesus Christ. She never did while we were there,
Oh,
and I just think of that and I think, wow, how horrible. We just really, we're manipulating that person, trying to get her to see things our way. And then later on, toward the end of my pastoral ministry time, I had this elder that I loved. He was my favorite elder, and yet come wintertime, his job, he had to work till 5 o'clock on Friday. Now, here in this area that we were
yeah.
living in at the time, the sun went down like at 4:30. So he was
Oh,
violating the Sabbath. So he was violating the
oh,
seventh day Sabbath. And I had to call him into my office. And here, he's probably twice my age. And I had to fire him, let him go as an elder because he was breaking the Sabbath. Talk about legalistic. I was definitely in that category. So Father has brought me a very, very long ways. But that's part of the journey I look at and realize I was so wrong. Who am I to think that I'm not wrong now? So I hold everything that I believe and think I understand right now very loosely because,
loosely. Wow.
yeah, giving God the chance to, if he needs to, he can take something that I believe, he can take it away and put on there what is a greater truth. And that's one of the things we ask all the time is, does what you believe make God more loving or less loving? So I'm looking for the things that make God more loving. And if I'm believing something that makes him less loving, I really need to reconsider that and take that to him and say, well, what's this about? Why do I believe this when it doesn't make you as loving as believing this? And let him explain it to me. And he does all the time. Wonderful, wonderful conversations with Father.
So were you a 7-day Adventist pastor?
I was a Seventh Day Adventist pastor, yes, for 7 years. Because the full track to become a Seventh Day Adventist pastor and get ordained is about a 10-year track by the time because they want you to go through college and seminary and time in the field. Actually, they want you to go college, time in the field, seminary, time in the field. And between all that, it's about 10 years, and then you get ordained. I had just been ordained 6 months before Father finally brought everything down and said, okay, you really can't remain in this denomination. You need to move on. And so I resigned and went into business for the next 17 years. So it was an interesting change.
How did he get you out? Because that's a very strong religious structure.
Yeah, and just FYI for some people that are watching, some of you may be Adventists that don't know some of the depths of some of the teachings, but I think many of the Adventists are aware that they teach that going to a Sunday church gives you the mark of the beast. That people that go to church on Sunday have the mark of the beast, and so if you go to church on Sunday, you have the mark of the beast. That's one of their teachings. So it makes it really hard for anybody in the Adventist church to leave that denomination and go to a Sunday keeping church because of that belief system that if I go to a Sunday church, I'm going to have the mark of the beast. So, that's a big deal. And that, yeah, it does keep a lot of people in that denomination because of that belief system. Now, there are some that if they haven't been in the church long enough or they're not really steeped in the doctrine, then they may not even understand that teaching is there. But yeah, so what got us out was, in college and then in seminary, and then at my last church, I had what I call a crisis of faith, where I'm looking at the scriptures and I can see very clearly how Yeshua has brought all the 10 commandments into a spiritual realm. He's taken it beyond the letter into the spirit. But yet I never could get past this 24-hour thing, 24-hour Sabbath. It's like, how do you spiritualize a 24-hour time frame? Well, my wife and I actually had, I had depression, most of my life. And when I was about, I don't know, 45, somewhere in there, well, back in 2001, I really hit a deep depression. And in that process, the church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I don't have anything against the church specifically. There's a lot of good, God-fearing, loving people there. So not speaking, against the entire system, but it does have some quirks to it. But they sent me to get counseling, and where we wound up going to counseling was through Elijah House. And here we're with all these spirit-filled people that are speaking in tongues, which for me, speaking in tongues was of the devil as an Adventist pastor. And so, it came my turn to be on the hot seat during one of these sessions. And I'm sitting there and everybody's praying in tongues. And I'm just sitting there saying, help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus. And I start seeing a vision. I start seeing Jesus, setting me free from this prison. And I won't get into all the details of it. It usually makes me cry when I share that vision because it's so powerful. But as I'm beginning to see this vision, one person stops praying in tongues and they start sharing what they're seeing. What they're seeing is what I'm seeing in the vision. I'm like, the first time I'm like, that was
Wow.
weird. And then it happened again.
Wow.
And, the vision has moved on. Another person stops praying and they say, and I see this. And they're sharing what I'm seeing in the vision. And it happened 3 times. And after the 3rd time, I'm just like, oh, God, help me. Because I now have no recourse or no, what I've always considered of the devil, praying in tongues. These people have seen what I'm seeing. And if what I'm seeing is not of you, God, then I'm done altogether, because here I am seeing Jesus set me free from a prison cell, and they're seeing what I'm seeing. So it totally blew my paradigm of what I had believed in the Adventist system. Totally began to blow it away. And so we started because I preach on Saturday, obviously. Sundays are open. So we
Okay.
started taking our family over to Sacramento area where, it's about half hour away from our little town where we were pastoring. And we look around and we bounce around to a few churches and we finally land on one that we really, really like. We like the life that's there. And it was the
Yeah.
Sacramento uh, Vineyard Church. And so we're there at the Vineyard
Right.
Church and we're really liking this. And, driving back and forth, we keep forgetting that little ears, we have 3 kids. There are 2, 4, and 6 years old, and they're listening to Adina and I talk. Well, at one point, this is the God thing, the big God thing, is that we found out that the pastor of that Vineyard Church was a former Seventh-day Adventist pastor. I mean, of all the churches,
Oh, wow.
we wound up landing in one where
Wow.
the pastor was a former Seventh-day Adventist. And not only that, here I'm kind of going through this crisis of faith of, the 10 Commandments. And what always drew me back to toe the line in the Adventist church was that seventh-day Sabbath, the 24-hour period. He had just done a series, and tells you how long ago it was, on a cassette tape. He gave us a cassette tape. He had just done a series on the Sabbath. And so Adina and I, we put that in and we're listening to it. And when it gets done, we both look at each other and we're like, well, now what do we do? Because at that point we were like totally done. We're like, we need to leave the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And so in this process, like I said, the little ears are listening. And in the Adventist Church, they have a Boy Scout type of environment called Pathfinders. And our son was attending that. So on a Tuesday night, we take him to Pathfinders, and he says to the leader there, he says, guess what? We're leaving the church and moving to Sacramento. And that leader of that group sat on the school board, which met Thursday night. And so she repeated it Thursday night at that board where my head elder sat on that board. And then comes Saturday, I'm preaching. I get done preaching. I come down off the pulpit to go to the back to meet everybody. My elder comes up the aisle and he meets me halfway and he says, so I hear you're leaving the church and moving to Sacramento. And I'm like, whoa, when did the spirit of prophecy fall on the Seventh-day Adventist Church? I was totally caught off guard. But what it did is it prompted this whole thing. It's like Adina and I are, been praying, trying to figure out how do we exit out of the church. And my 6-year-old son fixed that for us, because that brought on, the church board came, sat down with us, asked us, what do we believe? And I had to say, I don't believe that anymore, and I don't believe that. So they relieved us. And but the church the conference actually is who hires the pastors. And they kept me on for another month trying to get me reconverted. They sent me up to um, Redding, California, where there was a former seminary teacher who was really big in all denominations. He actually, I can't remember his last name, but he wrote some books on Old Testament that were, accepted across all denominational lines. They were just really depth. He was a scholar. They sent me to
Wow.
him to see if he could convert me. I sat up there with him, and for 3 hours we talked, and I shared my position with him. And after 3 hours, he goes, "I think you're okay," and that was it. That was it. So after that, I turned in my credentials, and we had to, we left. We wanted to leave. It was our intent to leave. It was really honoring that the church conference really tried to keep me on and help me, by reconverting me. That it was a really honoring thing. But in the end, I had to go, and I had to, step away from that system. So that's how we got out.
That's for the children.
Yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah.
Father saying in this time to you?
Well, I can say that I go and I sit with the Father in the throne room nearly every day. I just sit, and I've never seen the Father jumping out of his throne and pacing around his throne, wondering, "Oh man, Earth is so messed up. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do." I've never ever seen him do that. He's always at peace. He's always at rest, and so I choose to step into him and step into that. Now I don't do it perfectly 100% of the time. That's for sure. But when I see him, just he's at peace. He's at rest. He is a sovereign God, and he is in control. Does he have a bunch of humans doing a bunch of crazy stuff? Yeah, but he's not beyond being able to, fix the situations. Now, it may not look like it at times. We may look at the earth and the wars and the crazy stuff going on, but the reality is he is in control. He is in control. I've likened it to kind of a cruise ship, because you've got God's sovereignty, which I believe you cannot stop what he's going to do, and he
Of
has
course.
got a mission to restore all of his creation. And then you've got free will, and we're over here causing wars and doing stupid things that are really making it challenging for him. But he's the master chess player, and he's going to win. Love never
Oh my,
fails, and he is love. So you got these two things. It's like, how do they work together? Well, I liken it to being on a cruise ship. All of us are on a cruise ship, and God is the captain. He's taking that cruise ship where he wants to take it. None of us get to go up and say, "Hey, let's go to that island over there. Let's go over here." No, we don't. We can't do that. He knows where he's going, and he's going there for a purpose, and he's going to restore his creation. Now, all of us on the boat, you would think, well, what choices do we have? We got lots of choices. There's all kinds of things to do on a cruise ship. There are tons of things to do. And if you choose
I
to do
like
something
that.
stupid, if you choose to do something stupid, you'll wind up in the brig in the bottom of the boat, and you're still going to go where this boat's going. You're just not going to be able to see it because there's no windows down there. But you're still going to get there. It's like we're on the planet Earth. It is the ship, and we got tons of choices to make and things we can do. But he's taking this where he wants to take it, and we can't stop that. So again, I'm back to, well, I think I better just kind of align with Father. I want to align with him because he's got good things for me. He's got good things for everybody. He loves everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not. He loves everybody, and he's got good things for everybody. And so I want to align with what he's got for me, because that's where I'm going to be the happiest, is when I've aligned with what he's got for me. And when I'm doing that, there's no stress, there's no striving, there's no feeling guilty, there's no condemnation. It's just I get to be me. And he'll use things that break our paradigms of what we think is truth. Oh, he does it so often, and
Yeah.
I've grown to love it. At first it was so hard. It's like Peter and the blanket coming down with all the unclean foods. That was truly breaking Peter's solid paradigm of these are unclean. I will not eat, and yet God says eat, kill and eat. So and you can take whatever interpretation you want of that. But my point is, Father uses things that really tweak our belief systems in order to get our
Yeah.
attention and to show us that, hey, he's not stuck in that box. Don't stick him in that
No.
box. It's like, don't stick me in that box. I'm going to show you what's really going on, or how to really look
Yeah.
at this situation. I just love it. It's so powerful.
Yeah. And it makes sense that he speaks in parables. And I keep telling people he still speaks in parables.
Oh
If you
yeah.
don't believe it, check out your dream.
Yeah. Yeah,
what would be your message to the world and to the
mm.
people who are listening to us today?
It's an interesting statement because it would almost imply that I know everything. And we've used the analogy of let me just use a piece of paper here. Um, we've used the analogy of like, this is everything that there is to know. Okay, on this sheet, everything that there is to know. And the
Yeah.
reality is, if we have humility, is to understand that, well, actually, number one, that this, of everything there is to know, that that might be what's available to us to actually know. And then
Exactly.
to understand that we hardly even know a dot within that dot. So even science will tell us that we don't know everything. So there's definitely mysteries to be revealed. Now, on the other hand, you could say, but I do believe God knows them all. I do believe that there is no mystery to
Yeah.
God. And yet I could also throw another thing in there and say, I believe, okay, now this blows people's minds because it doesn't necessarily line up with scripture, but I believe God's constantly creating. He's constantly creating new things all the time out there, other universes, other things. And I would assume that when he's creating something, that perhaps he creates something new. Well, if it's new, guess what? That usually means it never was because it's new.
Oh, yeah. Because it's
So,
new.
so he's even revealing a mystery to himself that, oh, I'm going to create
Well,
something, a new idea.
but then one would say he stopped, he finished creating and he rested on the seventh day, which is your
What would
Sabbath
I say to
day.
that? Again, like I said, what I'm sharing with you does not necessarily line up with scripture, but I would say that would be true for this universe. Well, here's the one thing too. I'll make a separation between when some people say mysteries, they're talking about ancient mysteries, things that were known but now are hidden in mystery, and now they're being revealed again. The ancient
Okay.
pathways and ancient ways of doing things, and it's like that's interesting, that's cool, but it's kind of like getting stuck in the letter of the law. It's like if you get stuck there, that's something that Father gave us as a springboard, but we're not supposed to stop there. We're supposed to go beyond that into intimate relationship with Him. I'm
Yeah.
looking for the new mystery, the new revelation, the fresh revelation of things that we have never known yet, or at least that I have never known yet. I'm excited to see what he has for me, in the future. I don't want to keep looking back. If he's got something that's back there, maybe in the warehouse or something that got lost, if he wants to bring it forth, guess what? It's going to be new to me, and I'm going to be,
Exactly.
So it's a blessing either way. It's a blessing either way. But I can just tell you that things you don't know, well, those are mysteries, and unless you know everything, then there's some mysteries yet to be revealed.
Amazing. Yes, yes. I mean, imagine if we should walk as Enoch did, each and every one of us, have that full expression of all his experiences, or as Christ did, have the whole understanding of the way he walked. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I like the use of the ancient path that it's been there, it's been
Hmm.
unveiled, and we are stepping into it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for making the time. Thank
Oh,
you.
it's my pleasure.
It's really an honor to have you. Yes.
Tish, you're a gift and a blessing, and I just honor you and thank you for stepping in and being someone who does the shows and the interviews and put yourself out there to engage with others in order to bring mysteries from other people and reveal them to the people who have not yet seen them. That's good. I like that.
I'll say the same about you because, well, you started it. You and Adina are really amazing people. Thank you.
Thank you. Blessings. Love you. Bye bye.